something that's not quite as exciting and a lot of people are unhappy about, and that's Pokemon Champions, which is here, and there's been a lot of backlash online since its launch over missing features like no local wireless, no compatibility with Switch Friends list, no standard 6v6 battles, a very small Pokedex. I haven't had the chance to check this out yet, but Jada, I know you have been playing a bunch of it. What's your take on Champions so far?
Champions is aggressively fine. And I use the word aggressively very strong there. It's basically, if you grew up playing Pokemon Stadium, you're going to be right at home when it comes to at least the competitive side of battling against other people. Granted, it's online versus right there next to you. But it is like that list you rattled off. It's just a short list of the things that I, am a little worried about, but also they have very much set this game up to be their games as a service kind of game, because there's battle passes and there's daily unlocks and daily challenges. You can go to the farm to recruit one Pokemon for free each day, or you can spend tickets or currency to speed up the clock to do that again, to do it faster. I think this game will eventually grow to be something special. I think it will grow to be something that will be kind of a great way to tie all your Pokemon games together. Kind of that extra component to go along with Pokemon Home. I hadn't used Pokemon Home at all until I think I uploaded my flying Pikachu from a game ages ago, and I went and re-registered into it now, or logged back in, and I'm it's really great seeing all of my different Scarlet, Violet, Sword, Shield, Arceus, ZA, and be able to just grab those Pokemon from those games I'm no longer playing and then drag them into Champions and make use of something that I spent 100 hours on, raising these other Pokemon and EV training and such like that. The thing that kind of really boggles my mind with Champions above all is the performance is bad. The frame rate is bad, and it's not even bad on attacks. It's bad on idling when they're just sitting there breathing. God. I just see the frames drop.
On Switch 2?
I am playing on Switch 2, yes.
Seriously?
Yes, it is
guys,
not great.
Please.
The people in the stands are very, wobbly and weird looking. They're not good definition characters. They look worse quality than we've gotten in any recent Pokemon game. And I partially understand some of that is because this game is going to be coming to mobile in the future. So they can't put all these super graphically intensive things and then be okay, now we have to dumb it down really bad and reprogram and redo the art for these characters so it doesn't look horrendous on mobile. We're just going to make it look kind of flat and sad on all of them, but it's the same experience no matter where you're playing it. That being said, matchmaking has been very fast. So it's been really quick to get into matches. There is good UI for it when it goes to selecting your Pokemon, giving them items, picking moves, seeing what the opponent's team has. If you go to switch Pokemon and you hover over, say, an Alakazam's Psychic ability, it'll show you everybody in the opponent's party that would be not effective, super effective, etc. That way, if you're expecting your opponent to swap out, you can use the best move that would be give you the most advantage if you were to hit a Pokemon that's swapping in mid-battle. So I do like that kind of UI element, and I don't believe previous Pokemon games had that, but it's been a minute since I've done online battling because it was on handheld. So there is some good quality of life stuff in here, but yeah, it is a very rough package right now, and I think it's going to take a couple seasons before it gets there. Seasons are 30 days. They're 1 month seasons so far. At least this first starting season is 30 days. I don't know if that's going to be the case after season 0 or whatever. One thing that kind of boggled my mind is when you're going through the tutorials and everything, they're you get one free pick of a Pokemon to recruit. And I recruited Gardevoir because Gardevoir had a good stat build. It had good moves. I wasn't going to have to invest anything in changing it up. And then I go to look at the events, and the first event that's happening is if you play 3 battles, whether you win or lose, you get a Gardevoir. I'm like, wow, that's great. Why? I guess I'll have 2 of them in my limited box space, because you can only hold so many Pokemon in your box in Champions without buying storage space or buying the starter pack, which comes with currency and stuff. So I am a little worried about how the microtransactions could end up in the long term, or short term, at least, both, I guess. But I am liking it for what it is. I'm having a good time battling despite all of the shortcomings and limitations.
Because
I'm not going to put
battles are still good.
It's the Pokemon battles. It's Pokemon battles, and you can go in and you can update your stats and train the Pokemon, switch their abilities, change their nature, change their moveset. There's a whole ton of stuff, and you can bring Pokemon in. When you bring Pokemon in from the other games, all their stats and stuff will carry in from their wherever values they are at when you train them in that game. But yeah, it is. It definitely, I think, is going to leave a little bit to be. It leaves a lot to be desired from a complete product standpoint. But I think it is an okay first step.
Sounds like it's a good idea, but they should have just left it in the oven for longer.
Yes.
Let Scarlet and Violet continue, because I do not play competitive Pokemon, but my understanding of the biggest issue with this is that this is now the format that all the official stuff is going to be going forward, and so by releasing this in this state, the competitive community has at least temporarily lost a whole lot. Like there's a limited number of Pokemon they can use, whereas before they had a whole lot more that they were able to access. A bunch of items I heard are not available, like held items that you can't. There are ones you can't use, including several that were part of like people's meta strategies for a really long time. They'll probably be added eventually, but they're not there right now. And then also I saw a thing going around today. Apparently there's some bug where some Pokemon, if you're transferring Pokemon from Pokemon Home into this, there's a bug where sometimes they could just disappear.
Yes,
and
I heard about
lose
that
them.
as well.
And the fact that it's releasing in this state, this very limited state, when there is current, I mean, look, I didn't care for Scarlet and Violet, but we were doing fine in the meta scene with that for a while, and we could have kept that for another year and then maybe like unleashed this, or even just released it now as like an early access thing, and then made this the competitive game going forward, starting like next year with Wind and Waves or something. I don't know, but it just this feels very not. It doesn't feel well thought out to me. At least the timing of it, at least.
Yeah,
it just feels a little rushed.
Yeah.
It seems like they had a great opportunity to make truly this home for competitive Pokemon, which it still could end up being, to your point, Jada, but it just seems like it got way too caught up in being a storefront and a mobile game. And I think that's just a really big disappointment for the concept when this was announced, and we were all pretty thrilled and thought this could be a really big
great
deal.
Idea.
Yeah, it is to what it is now, which is like, I don't know, 180 Pokemon at launch or something like that are available to use in the game. And it's just, and I've seen some gameplay, about 20 minutes of gameplay, and everything just looks like a mobile app store microtransaction shop with Pokemon pasted over it. And just like, even when you're training your Pokemon, it's just in these like pretty characterless menus. And I don't know, I'm not impressed with what I've seen so far.
It's definitely relying very heavily on the Pokemon of it all, and not, when modern RPGs, when you're seeing things doing things in screen, when you're doing things to like creatures or monsters that you're training or whatever, you generally have some sort of animation or graphic or something happening. It's just like menus. That's it. Menus. It's a very no thrills approach, which I guess that might be fine for, I'm not a professional competitive Pokemon player. I've put together some teams. I've tried to compete with some metas in the past and keep up with them, but they get out of hand really fast. And if you're not running the specific meta or the specific counter to that meta, and it was more work than I wanted to put into competitive Pokemon online.
Yeah.
So like I said, I do think this will eventually get there. Until then, I'll be happy with my shiny Azumarill just racking up wins, soloing teams. So I'll be happy about that.
I do want to just like hone in on a thing that both you and Logan have now said, which is that this is successful and succeeding on the Pokemon of it all. That like fundamentally, Game Freak, Pokemon, all of them have put together a very, very good fundamental system of interesting creatures that can fight each other, and the numbers are good, and the way everything matches up. I mean, you know, there's obviously various issues at different points in the meta, like where something's too powerful or something's not working, but by and large, this system is freaking great. And I wrote something like this in my Scarlet and Violet review. Like that game was a mess at launch. It's a little better now that we have Switch 2 versions, but like fundamentally, the Pokemon of it all was great. Like, Pokemon is still good. I feel the same way about ZA. I feel like the fact that Pokemon translated so well to that action format does a lot of work for that game. Yep. And I do sort of, you know, every time I write about Pokemon, I ponder a little bit, like, how long is the Pokemon of it all going to be able to carry this franchise? Potentially forever. I mean, seemingly forever. But, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if there's eventually going to be a breaking point where people are just going to sort of say, you know what, like, this is great, but actually I wish that all the things holding it up were better, but I don't know. Probably we won't. We haven't had an issue so far.
I think a part of it is going to be when a actual contender shows up in the space. Like, not to say that games like Temtem and, you know, Power World or whatever aren't actual contenders, but they're competing in the same space, but they're not competing for the top spot. You know what I mean? They're not at that level yet, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you think anything ever will? I don't.
I think something will eventually. I think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable for something to come out. Something is going to blow up eventually. I don't know who's going to make it or what it's going to look like. I think something will eventually challenge Pokemon, and I hope it does, because competition breeds innovation, and I think that's the best way for Pokemon to grow, is to have somebody that it sees as a threat to their top spot. Yeah. Also, Reb, on your point of Scarlet and Violet being better, so I wanted to grab a bunch of my Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet.
Uh-oh.
So I went back to load it up. I found out the only two Pokemon I ever hit 100 with were my shiny Azumarill, and then, what's the evolution of Fido? I can't remember what the evolution is. It's like Dachshund. There it is, Dachshund.
I almost said donut.
Those were my only two I had 100, because that was when I was doing really big in terror rating. Those two covered a lot of bases for me. But, I went to do a bunch of picnics last night while I was trying to farm Chanseys and Blissies, and half the time I went to go set up a picnic, the picnic table was invisible.
Yeah.
And so, like,
right,
I would make a sandwich and everything would just fall on the ground. I'm like, I thought we fixed this.
Yep.
Wait,
I really liked all the sandwiches that I made where the ingredients just like sort of disappeared into the void. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh man. I don't know if they'll ever have a competitor, because that competitor will never have Pikachu, and I feel like that does so much. But I totally agree with what you were saying, Reb, and that is how I feel about this too, is when the only thing good about a product is something that product didn't even introduce, being Pokemon battling. Battling is always good in every game it's in. And that wasn't introduced here, there's not many new ideas for that here, then what is this product even giving you? And it's mostly giving you microtransactions so far. So yeah, hopefully it turns into something better. That's Pokemon Champions. So far out now on Switch with a Switch 2 patch and coming soon to mobile.